Today's guest is Dr. Roland Guenther, a medical doctor born and trained in Germany, where he studied at the University of Heidelberg, one of the oldest universities in Europe. He started his medical career in surgery and continued as a family doctor, practicing classical homeopathy since 1985. He has been teaching homeopathy since 1992, initially in Germany and later in Canada and in the US. He has conducted more than 250 C4 Triturations, which constitute the chief source of his understanding of the remedies. In the last 8 years, he has studied the basics of transgenerational and collective trauma healing with the mystical teacher Thomas Hubel. In this area, he is especially interested in the German-Jewish relationship and the wounds of colonialism in Native Americans as well as in immigrants. He is living on Vancouver Island, Canada, where he continues to practice and teach. Please do visit his website, vancouverislandhomeopathy.com, and then click on blog, where you'll be able to access his video newsletters where he shares some fascinating information. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now my mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and welcome to Homeopathy Hangout, where today I have a much anticipated guest, Dr. Roland Guenther. Welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you, Eugenie. Thank you for having me here. And thank you. It's so fun when you speak. I'm Canadian here, yeah, but I come from Germany, yeah. So the way you pronounce the name, it really touches me. Thank you.
Oh, and if our listeners are hearing the giggling in our voices, it's because we were both just having a conversation before we started recording about names. There is something in a name, isn't there? Because, like you said, Roland, and you know, my name gets pronounced so many different ways as well. But I guess it's that vibration, and you know, I just want to say, I haven't mentioned this, but I have been to Vancouver Island, where you are based.
Oh, wow.
And I have had the famous Nanaimo slice, and it was delicious. You are living in such a beautiful part of the world.
It's gorgeous.
I was there
Can
about
I show
April.
You?
Yes, please.
Can I offer you a view out of my window?
Yes.
See, it's low tide right now. We have snow. So there's a lot of the tidal flats that fall dry right now. And there's a bay of the ocean. On the other side is a town, Comox. And so this is the land side, the eastern side of Vancouver Island. Yeah, and it's gorgeous. Yes.
I think I was there as like start of April. And so there was still a little bit of snow because we did do a little bit of, we did tally marking.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then you were in the mountains. Yeah.
Yes, but also there were some tulips. I remember my friend driving me around and there were some tulips on the island. I don't know if
you know, when you're here by the ocean, it's getting, especially in the southeast part of Vancouver Island, really warm.
Mm.
You go half an hour into the mountains and you have several meters of snow. Yeah. So it's really close. You can go sailing here and then go skiing up the mountains.
And I read that you are an avid sailor.
I used to sail. Right now, a big joy of mine is going fishing. Yeah, I love the ocean. Yeah, I just love being out there and discovering. You know, it has to do. It's a little bit like homeopathy. You see a client, yeah, and it's just an adventure. Who is that? Okay, I see the outside, and slowly you uncover it, yeah, and you go deeper and deeper. And in the end, there's the whole work of art appearing of the person. And it's always beautiful. There's always a great beauty in it. How somebody with where he or she comes from, born into a certain situation, exposed to certain experiences and influence, how they dealt with it and wove it together until they are what they are today. Yeah. And we're allowed to admire that. It's in itself, it's something wonderful. So for me, it's always being the ocean, and on the ocean, one thing, I just love this open space. Yeah, like open space is like the desert or the prairies or the ocean. I love them. And then putting a line down and just, I wonder what's down there. Yeah, it's again this mystery, this not knowing, and then something shows up. And especially when it's something unexpected. How great. Yeah.
Well, you are going to
So,
laugh at the synchronicity of this because literally, like we're obviously traveling at the moment and
yeah,
we're in a caravan park. And right there, my husband is busy cooking breakfast. And guess what they're going to do after they've eaten?
going
They
fishing.
are going fishing.
Say hi, please.
I
Yeah.
will. My daughter was very excited because she caught her first fish a few days ago. And so we're leaving tomorrow for a cross, funny enough, open spaces across the Nullarbor, which is 1,600 kilometers of, it's called Null Arbor, meaning no trees. And it is the longest stretch of straight road in the world, which is 1,000 kilometers of straight road. So they are going
Oh,
fishing right now before we hit the Nullarbor tomorrow. So, well, how's that for
wow.
starting on synchronicity?
It's, that's awesome. Yeah, it's
Oh,
really,
Roland, you have to tell us
yeah,
your story because I was reading your bio and the beautiful Sarah Valentini, who I know is here with us in spirit right now, who could not stop talking about you,
yeah.
has told me a bit about your story. But can you please tell our listeners your journey of how you discovered homeopathy?
Well, that kind of started early in my life. In my teens, especially my later teens, I was practicing a lot of yoga. I read when you meditate 5 hours a day, you get enlightened. It didn't work. I never made it to 5 hours. Yes, if you do that for half a year, yeah, that's what it never worked. Not one day. But anyways, I practiced with great passion yoga and read what I could get from these East Indian masters. And then I think it was with 16 or 17. I was a bird warden in a bird sanctuary by the ocean in Germany. And my direct boss from this protection of nature environmental organization, he was friends with a medical doctor and she was a homeopath. So I got to know her and I was quite confused, surprised, and touched. Yeah, all at the same time because I didn't get it, what was going on there, but there was something remarkably different than usually in medical offices. Yeah. And I was fascinated and somehow I think then where I got my first homeopathy book. And then I discovered, when anything, what I learned from these East Indian masters in spiritual terms is true, this is how healing herb works. Because it's so in alignment and it's so coherent with these spiritual teachings, which ancient mystical spiritual teachings. It's fascinating. So in a way, it's still today something that I love. Yeah, it was not a great healing that I experienced. I remember I started practicing homeopathy and then I went to medical school, yeah, and was a surgeon and then a family doctor, yeah, and then I started homeopathy and I was practicing already for 3 years homeopathy and every day I was surprised that it really works. Yeah. So, and, but you get used to that in a way.
I have to laugh because you will hear that from every homeopath. And the first time, I don't think we speak about it enough, but the first time was years ago, and I read somewhere about Rajan Sankaran saying every time he goes into to the clinic in the morning and think this
Yeah.
stuff doesn't work, and then at the end of the day, he's like, just blown away. But I still get surprised. We shouldn't get surprised by it anymore, but every day I'm still like,
That,
just in wonder how.
exactly. I think this wonder, just like when you stand in front of an old tree or a mountain, yeah, and this sense of awe for something that's really true and both ancient and right now, and it's just really big. So for me, it's a very deep practice, and it's actually more than a healing modality. Homeopathy, you can say it's a way of life, a way of meeting life or even a spiritual path. And when you walk a spiritual path, you become a healer anyways. Yeah, no matter what you walk, it's a byproduct of healing yourself and coming into alignment with the ground where you are and spirit. Yeah, and bringing that into becoming an open vessel for that. And homeopathy is really is practicing that. And it's beautiful. Sometimes I say to the students when I teach them, we start learning remedies and learning homeopathy as a healing modality, but the goal is to become remedy in the world, just what we are. With every remedy we learn, there is something that speaks from earth to us. Yeah, there's something of her wisdom that's represented in a mineral, plant, animal, or whatever. Yeah, and we can learn that, and it can heal a certain aspect of us, or it can expand us at least. And so more and more we can walk that and read that. You know, yes, I'm from Christian background, but I also spent years with Indigenous peoples here in Canada, and they were really important. I would not be who I am without that. Yeah. And they took me in, they gave me a chance. Yeah, they made me a part of their ceremonial path. And for many, many years now, for 30 years, a part of ceremonies. And it's part of an important part of my inner walk, of my inner world. And what I really love is this deep connection to the earth, what they have. This is a spirituality that's not somewhere spaced out. That's right here, right now. Yeah. It's very grounded. It's very substantial. Yeah. And when you put that together with things like one of these aphorisms in the Tao Te Ching I love, where it says, man follows earth, earth follows the universe follows the Tao, and the Tao only follows itself, and the Tao is God. Yeah? But that means the direct representation that we follow, the manifestation of divine law, the manifestation of God is earth. And that is really big. That means the holiest of holy books is really this creation. And we have the privilege and the blessing that we can work with that, with these expressions of divine intelligence and wisdom every day, and heal with that. And it's just breathtaking.
What
Yeah.
a privilege for you to have spent so much time with the Indigenous cultures. And I think you said on your website that you were in Mexico as well, spend some time
I
there
also,
too.
in Mexico, less just half a year, I was in the mountains of Mexico. It's a different facet, but it was also really important. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
natural wonder and being more connected with nature is so important. And I think that is, I mean, there's many problems with the world these days, but certainly one of them is that disconnect with Mother Nature, and that we are, just build more in the cities and disconnecting ourselves. We're not out in nature. And this is one of the
Indeed.
things that it's only our second week of travel, but where the kids are, I mean, we live a rural anyway, and they're in a Steiner school, so they tend to be more outside anyway, but just even more immersed in nature right now. Like right now, my husband's actually standing there cooking sausages outside instead of inside the house. And, it's just being outside is just so good for
Wow.
us. It's so good for our soul. And
It's
Indigenous
totally
cultures
great.
that
Yeah.
combine that with ceremony and really
Yeah.
connecting with nature. When you get back to that, it just reminds us what life's really about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Speaking of ceremony, something I really want to have a chat with you about is your C4 Triturations and the what's
Federations.
it called?
Yeah.
Shameeah, I think you call
I
it. Or
call them Shameeah,
I
but
love that you have a
it's not
different
so
word for
important.
it. No,
But
I know, but
it,
just tell us about all
oh,
of
thank
that.
you. It's meanwhile, I'm a little shy about it. Yeah. But
No,
when I
tell you
first
what.
came 20 years ago to Canada, and in my backpack, I had C4 Triturations. That's the thing. That's the most precious I have to offer to the world and to homeopathy. Yeah. And nobody knew about that here. Yeah. Back then. And until one of the senior homeopaths said, Roland, you have to give it a different name. Trituration is a word, sounds terrible, and nobody knows what that is. Yeah. And that I thought about it, and somehow I came up with this Shameeah. It's an ancient word from the ancient Arabic languages, and it's actually the origin of alchemy. And homeopathy is like a daughter of alchemy in a way. Yeah. So in modern chemistry comes from medieval alchemy. The alchemy comes from chemia in ancient Greece. Yeah. And the ancient Greeks, they had it from the ancient Arabs where it was Shameeah. And back then it was not what then in medieval times the alchemists were focused on, like making gold out of lead. But for the Arabic culture, it was transforming low vibrating energies into higher vibrating energies. And I thought, damn, this is exactly what we do. Yeah. You take a low vibrating energy, like something here from a little orchid here, that is something that's condensed, where the whole energy is condensed in the physical. You take a tiny little bit, you put it in your bowl with milk sugar. And of course, it's even better when you meet in a group, because the energy we can hold together is stronger than what I can hold only as one individual. And the energy, for example, of this orchid or whatever it is, can express itself in each person a little bit different. So we can put that together like a mosaic and understand a bigger picture. And I love that process. And you start out in grinding, and in the first hour, in the protocol follows exactly what Hahnemann said. Just it's going a little further than that. But the mechanics are just Hahnemann. 6 minutes grinding, 3 to 4 minutes scraping the bowl clean, 6 minutes grinding, then you milk sugar, and so on until you have your first hour. That's C1. C coming from the Latin centum 100, so 1 to 100. And in the first hour, it's when the whole thing still vibrates kind of low, close to the physical, because we just started with the physical. And with a physical tiny part of the substance, we resonate mainly with the physical body, with our body. And also it's about usually me, about ourselves. And then we clean out the bowl, we bring new milk sugar, and what sticks from C1 to the walls of the bowl is enough for C2, and we do the whole thing again and grind down again for an hour, and an hour silence. Everybody just takes notes, what we experience. And I think the silence is important, because I also tried that with talking, but then there's certain people that dominate the show, and energetically, and I don't like that. The others think then, oh, somebody that's the most assertive, that's how it goes, but this is not true. So for me, the science is really respecting each other's experience and giving space to each other. And after the hour, we compare what we have and share it with each other in a sharing round. And C2, the second hour, and then from experience of thousands of triturations, it's mainly about the energy of the two. This is 1 + 1. That's me and somebody else, and me and somebody else, that gives rise to emotions. So it's mainly about emotions. Our emotional body gets triggered. We have memories we might get of emotional situations and stuff like that. Third hour is usually when we touch the mental level, a high vibration level, and when we get a first understanding of what it is and what we're dealing with. And so far, for Hahnemann, it was a preparation of a homeopathic remedy. For C4 homeopaths, or for people that do triturations, it's a journey of adventure into you learn to look at the world. How does the world look like through the eyes of an orchid or a snake or whatever? And this aspect of the world is that resonates, and we just, with our physical body, with our emotional body, with our mental body, we receive that. And when we're sensitive to subtle energies and a little bit able to express what we experience, then it's just exciting. And of course, then it's who came up with that? It was Witold Eller in the beginning 90s in Germany, a biologist. He studied biology and then made his money in the holidays in working in some pharmacy, and the pharmacist told him, I need a homeopathic remedy that's not available. Go in the basement. This is how it works. Here's the plant. Do it. And he sat down in the basement grinding, and all of a sudden he experienced things and got insights into the nature of this plant. And he said, my gosh, what I learned in these hours in the basement about this plant is so much more than I ever learned at the university in botany, about the energy. And then he asked homeopaths, hey guys, do you know what you have? Nobody knew. When I 45 years ago started homeopathy, what did we do? Yeah, we got in our training, we got a bowl and a little bit of a substance and around for 5 or 10 minutes. And then they told us, this is how it works for hours. Yeah, it's just the same. But that when you want it to be, when you open up all these antenna, all the senses of your physical body, the antenna of your emotional, mental, spiritual body, and to receive, then it can be so much more than the mechanical preparation. It's an adventure. And the most exciting is when you go higher than C3. Hahnemann triturated till C3, and then there was the potentizing with liquids in the liquid form. But you can imagine from C0, from the raw plant to C1 takes an hour. Yeah, every step takes an hour. Then from C3 to you dissolve C3, yeah, you bang it 10 times, dilute it, it takes 10 seconds, yeah, or 12 or whatever, yeah. And that's energetically, it's a whole different process, absolutely different, yeah. If you grind it for 1 hour or if you just succuss it for 10 seconds, it's totally different. So in a way that we just add that up in our C10, 12, 30, and so on, is we adding apples and pears. But it's tradition, so we do it. But it's not really energetically, it's not perfectly, does not make so much sense. But what I wanted to say, you know, when you're in C1, C2, C3, physical, emotional, mental level, you have the remedy picture, the pathology of what this substance can create. And when you keep going, and we told Ella one day, said, let's just keep going and see what happens. We have no idea. Yeah, why? So they were just playing around with stuff. Yeah. And then he said there was something really remarkable happening. All of a sudden, it felt like it touched something sacred. It feels like church in a way. It feels like what was a problem on the lower levels turns around into a gift. And you know, going through that process, going through that trouble, actually, in the end, there's a gift waiting for you, a gift that we cannot anticipate. We have no idea how it looks. But there's a real process of transformation happening. It transforms into something that we cannot anticipate. And that's absolutely fascinating. It's like in the core of every substance, at least every natural substance, yeah, there is what God put in there. There's a sacred core. And to touch that in a trituration is a deep, for me, it's a deep mystical experience. And I'm always in awe about that. Yeah, it's fascinating. I did it 250 times, stuff like that, and every time I start and think, oh, it's not going to work, yeah, and and yes, it happens, but not often. It happens that I have a substance where I simply not able to resonate with, or not able to hold all levels of all vibrational levels, or not able to express it, or don't get it perfectly. Yeah, that happens, but it's not that often. Yeah.
And do you tend to do it in a group always, or do you sometimes like to do them by yourself as well? And
I sometimes do it by myself, but I like way better to do it in a group. I like it way more to do it in a group. So
And
yes.
I'm glad you answered a few questions that I had, and one was that I wondered whether you stick with a classical Hahnemannian way of triturating with 7 minutes and then 3 minutes, or 6 and 4, or if you're a little bit more flexible. And also, do you do all levels in the same day, or I know some homeopaths like to leave it overnight so it has exposure to the sunlight and the
I
moonlight.
love your question, Eugenie. This is in the method is strictly Hahnemannian. Yeah. I love this. This is a rigid frame that gives safety. That's how it works. Yeah. But we go higher then. Yeah. And how high depends on where is the turnaround, and not everything has a turnaround and a transformation on the C4 level. Some things don't, or have it on higher levels or whatever. And yes, usually I like to do C1, C2, C3 in one day. When we start at 9, by 6 in the evening, we're done. Yeah, with C3 and sharing. And after C3 is for me the moment where the nature of the substance is revealed. It's the most fun when you do it blind. Yeah. Because then our mind is out of the way. Yeah. Because, when we know the substance, then we reiterate and ruminate constantly what we already know. That's a waste of time because how do the Zen people say when your glass is full, you can't receive? Yeah. So when we think we know something about it, we're not present to receive. So it's way more exciting and it's way easier, especially for people that are not very experienced in it. It's way easier to do it blind. And for me, after C3 is the time when it's time to reveal the nature of the substance and then to bring in all information we have. Maybe it's the substance we know in homeopathy. Bring in what we know about it. Bring in from what we know from science, from mythology, everything then. Because by then we're so far in our inner process that it can't get us off anymore. Yeah. And with any bias or any stuff. And then we take all that in and then go into the night. And I love to have a night because of the dreams that can show up. So I can include the dreams while it's not yet complete. So it's, when you're through and it's complete, then there is sometimes a chance, okay, now I got it and I can leave it. It's over. Yeah. But when you're somewhere in the process, deep enough in the process, but not all the way through, this is a beautiful time to give the medicine, the remedy, time to work on us. Because yes, we want to look at the remedy, but the remedy looks at us and also does something with us. And we want to allow that. Yeah. Because yes, when we go there and we say, hey, dear orchid or snake or whatever it is, yeah, use me. Use whatever I have to offer, my body, my emotions, my intellect, yeah, to show me your world, yeah, to let me become a part of your world.
Mm.
And it's a different kind of science. In science, we often have in the university, yeah, or in institutions, this subject-object split, and we don't have it. Yeah, there is a merging. Yeah, and in the end, in C4, you realize, okay, I was dealing maybe out there with this fir tree. Yeah, and in the beginning, I look at that, and in the end, you experience that this fir tree actually is a part of yourself in there that's also represented. And it's like inside and outside's blur. And that's beautiful. This is where we become one with that. Yeah. And it's really beautiful. And I like to have that in the second day. Yeah.
Mm.
And then finish it with in the morning, have a sharing round. Okay, what happened? Because sometimes also things that happen by coincidence, yeah, are meaningful when we are in that energy and give us understanding. And when then we share what was going on in us, we share our night, we share our dreams, yeah. And then without going too much into fantasies or theories, yeah, not interpretation or stuff, just gathering and then bring it again in the cauldron of our bowl and stir it, yeah, and stir it into that transformation. And often it's on C4 level, but sometimes it's higher. And I think there's substances I never got an end. I don't know if they ever have an
Mm.
end where you can say, like substances that deal with masculine, feminine. I don't think we're supposed to have an end to that. Life would stop. Yeah. So the game just gets bigger. You more understand of it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I remember Dr. Paul Terrios, I think it was like a C52 that he triturated his own blood. And I'm sure that's probably a
Yeah.
substance that probably would have no end. But just as you were talking, I was just thinking once again, the synchronicity of it all is a substance that we triturated about 2 years ago was the West Australian Christmas tree. And it's this tree that grows in this southern part of Australia where
Yeah.
we're holidaying
Yeah.
at the moment. And they've got this bright, bright yellow, intense flower that flowers around this time of year.
Oh.
And it
Uh-huh.
was a blind trituration, so we didn't know. And
Yeah.
also, normally when we do triturations, we would be very quiet. But this one, for some reason, we kept on talking about death and different ways to die. And one of the triturators started singing this song called Dumb Ways to Die. And then we were all giggling and we were saying, wouldn't it be horrible if you were triturated to death? And like these conversations, and the
Mhm.
main leader kept on saying, don't talk so much. And we just couldn't stop talking about death.
Yeah.
And then when we found out what this substance was, it turns out that in the Noongar culture in this area, this is actually where this tree is where the spirits go to sit and wait before the wind comes and takes them on to the next world. But it was
Oh,
interesting driving down here because they're in
yeah.
flower at the moment and I see them everywhere. And now that we've done the trituration, I feel that connection with the plant because you remember that messages that
Yeah.
it was given you and you become part of that. So when you were saying about the plant seeing us as well as them, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now I understand why I just had a different feeling looking at this plant now afterwards. It's very,
There's an
very, very
intimacy.
cool.
We
There
create an
is.
intimacy. Yeah. Like a friend. You meet an old friend. It's
Yeah.
not an item of this species or something. Yeah. It's no, you meet an old friend and you know how that feels. There's
Mm.
an intimacy in that. I love that, you know.
Mm. And a
And
respect.
with
I think a respect for the
yeah,
natural world as well. Like when you see each other, I can imagine. I mean, I am not a vegetarian, so I can't, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but I can imagine that as you're triturating more of these substances, it would be harder to consume them or to eat them or to maybe do it in a more respectful way as opposed to just unconsciously, like then being able to respect them more.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
That's a whole other conversation.
I don't know. I
Fish still tastes
I
good.
eat my salmon off also after triturating it. Yeah, so it's great delight
Tastes just as
and with a
good.
deeper understanding. And but it's when I go fishing and I get yeah, like native people, they often get a little tobacco and say a prayer and give an offering
Mm.
and stuff. And so I go out and give a little tobacco to the ocean and say, hey, Mama Ocean, yeah, keep me safe today. And if it's okay, in alignment with your bigger wisdom, give me a few of your children, yeah, and to bring something home and to feed my family and my friends and whatever, and for the joy of fishing. And yeah, and sometimes I say, I have a contract with these fish in being allowed to eat them. And I tell them, you feed me now, and one day I hope that this body will go back to you and feed you. Yeah, that would be my greatest. And that also creates, I become part of this life. I'm not outside and take something out and put my dirt in or something. I'm a part of that, of this life of the
Mm.
coast. And I love that. Yeah.
Mm. I also just wanted to mention with you calling this C4 the Shameeah. I know you were kind of like cringing when you said
Yeah.
it, but I love that you've given it a different word. And I also love that it sounds kind of like shamanism, like the first kind of syllable of it, because it is kind of a bit of a shamanistic journey almost that we're doing. And I was going to ask you if,
It's magic. Yes,
yeah, do
it
you,
is magic. And to triturate is sounds like what it means. To triturate is an old word, an English word from Latin triturare, and it means to grind down in a fine powder.
mm,
It's simply mechanical. And that's
mm,
what the word says and the vibration of the word. Yeah.
mm.
But Shameeah is magic. It's like a fairy tale. And it is that magic. It's this time when the fairy tale says how do they start? In a time
Once upon a
before
time in a
time, or
land
once
far
upon a
away.
time in a land far away, exactly, when people and animals could talk with each other. And this time is now. Yeah.
Mm,
In a Shameeah, in a C4 Trituration, we do that.
mm.
And
Something I love
it's
about that
really,
as well is like when you talk about like staying with the indigenous people or going to the mountains in
yeah,
Mexico, and I get so jealous because I just think, oh, I would love to sit in ceremony like that. One of my dreams is to be able to
yeah.
do ayahuasca ceremony, but I have little kids. It's just not going to happen. And I'm like, I'm not part of an indigenous culture. Like I feel like I'm missing out. But you know what? It's just hit me that in homeopathy, we have our own ceremony. This is our ceremony. This is our kind of way of connecting with a higher power. And so maybe just in the
Yeah.
meantime, I can just do that.
I think it's a profound and it's a deep way of
Mm,
connecting the land. Yeah. Like when you triturate stuff that's growing or is alive in your area, it's enormous. And there's, for me, coming from Germany, and I was kind of I feel I was very, very lucky, because when I first came, which is first time, that was in 95, 96, I arrived in Eastern Canada with a backpack and just hitchhiked west, and every day praying to meet the right people. And after a week, I ended up on the reserve. I got invited. People took me in, and through all kinds of coincidences, and I stayed there for a few years. And this was a different way. Immigration usually happens, is a trauma. You get uprooted. Most of the immigrants do not come because it was so beautiful where they were. They come with a trauma where they left. They come with a being uprooted from their home, from their culture. They come on that. It's added an additional trauma of landing, and maybe there's no red carpet for most of them. It's about sheer survival, often for generations. And this survival thing is something that sticks in our immigrant cultures. There's a fear and a distance to the ground. And I think when we do triturations, or when we can bridge that a little bit. We grow a little bit roots into this land here. The roots to the land go through our culture, also backwards, depending on where you come from. The roots to that land for me also go through my ancestors and my family lineage. Because the ancestors, they are in the ground. They are part of the ground. Also, when I, in the morning, go out here and stand under our big fir trees in the yard and do my morning prayer, I always also acknowledge the people that lived here before we came. That's part. They are in the ground. They are. When I eat my carrots from that ground, I literally eat the people that lived here before also. They are part of that ground. And it's not metaphor, it's substantially true, a little bit at least. And they are part of the aliveness, and to acknowledge that and to respect it, and to, it's, for me, it's one way of growing a little bit of root in this land. And yes, to arrive and to be welcomed in the indigenous culture, in a culture that is an expression of this land. That's not living on the land, but that's really living with the land. Like a mushroom is an expression of the soil. So an indigenous culture is really the result of thousands of years of communication of people and land. This is an expression of the land. It gave me a whole different connection to this land. And today I can say I love this land. For me, it's not a trauma, but a love story. And I can feel this land loves me also. So I'm really happy. And I think, yes, we can learn a lot from indigenous cultures but also we all come somewhere from an indigenous culture. We all were somewhere indigenous. And when we also invite here this root, energetic root of our family lineage and our ancestors, and when we open that up and not choke it, because there's also trauma, unfinished business coming, but turning towards and say, hey, there's a lot of energy and there's a grounding that can happen through us. This is also part of my practice. I love it, homeopathy. Our miasms, originally the traditional miasms, this is about ancestry, what happened in the ancestry. So we have that now, collective trauma, transgenerational trauma, everybody talks in the world about it. But we've been doing that for 200 years. Isn't that awesome?
It's so cool. We just had a very hard name for it.
Yes, of course.
This wasn't a trending word.
Basically, it is what's this transgenerational trauma, unfinished business from the past that we carry with us as carry-on luggage, and it's our job to digest that as much as possible and pass on as little as possible to our kids, to give them more freedom.
I sometimes wonder about that though, because I just like transgenerational trauma, I feel especially post-COVID is like the new buzzword at the moment. And
Mm.
I've never in my, over a decade of practice ever had so many people emailing me saying, I want to address my generational trauma. And I think that we can heal it to a point, but a part of me thinks we can never heal everything because I get these people coming to me panicky, thinking they want to clear everything their parents have handed down to them because they don't want to pass it on to their kids. But the reality is, there's always going to be things passed on because I think if there wasn't, then we wouldn't incarnate as spirits into a humanly form because what would be the point? So, anyway, that's my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think.
Eugenie, this is great. Yeah, I think I have no idea what's possible. Yeah, I just know what is. And what is right now, there's no way we can not get something unfinished business from past generations. And there's hardly a way of not passing something on. I grew up in the orchard of my grandpa. I remember when I was, I think, 6, we planted this one apple tree. Okay, grandpa planted it. He never got an apple from it, but he took care of it. I took care of it. Today, my grandkids are playing under it and harvesting the apples. This is a generational contract, and it's the same with healing. Yeah. Grandpa planted something and only had the work. Yeah. He knew this is a big apple tree. So it's not one of these cripples that we plant in our gardens because within a few days, a few weeks, a few years, they have their first apples. Yeah. No, there's one of these old guys that needs 20 years to. I love that because this is culture. Culture is is a generational contract. Yeah. And to be in the flow of that, it's beautiful. Yeah. And to say, yes, we are not only, we're also their hope. There was somebody lately who said, yeah, I don't remember grandpa or whoever killed himself, and now my daughter killed herself and stuff. And we talked about that, and she said, oh, I need to separate from that and to get it out. Yeah, this has to end. And I said, no, we need to love that, to include that. Do you call your grandpa and ask him for support? Yeah. Are you, when you are in despair, do you call him because you know we are their hope? What they could not finish, we are their hope today. And when we open up to them, there's a whole lot of support that can come from there. I think this is really important for all Indigenous people have a really a high reverence for the ancestors.
Mm.
Yeah. And the connection, our global disconnect, you mentioned that in the beginning, our global disconnect from the earth is one of our biggest problems, that we look at her as if it's an object. We have to fix her. What a nonsense. She's wisdom and we have to bow down to her. Yeah. And I mean, in Western medicine, and I can say that because this is where I come from, Western medical doctor. Yeah. But in all university, we only learn what can go wrong and all the mistakes God did when he created the world the way he did. And we would know it all better because we have to fix it. Yeah. What a fucking arrogance. Forgive me for saying that. Yeah. This ancient wisdom that is in earth and in each one of our bodies. And it's the same laws that rule or that are valid in our bodies that are then out there. Yeah. So we bow down to that and say, how can I support you to go through what you want, to heal? Yeah. And not, oh, doing something wrong. I have to give you this or that and fix you. And so it's also with the bigger problems outside. Yeah. When we look at global warming and stuff like that, can we look at it as this is an expression of the wisdom of Earth? She wants to heal. And like us, when we're sick, we get a fever, she gets it. And instead of thinking it's the biggest, yes, it has side effects for us. Yeah. Asking, hey, Grandmother Earth, how can I support you? How can I be with you in your healing? And you and me, we're homeopaths. And as all healers all over the world, yeah, each one of us, we're one cell in the immune system, in the self-healing system of this planet. That means we need to bow down to her So we are part of this bigger intelligence, of the bigger wisdom, and not just do our own thing, each one. Because in your and in my body, when there's a cell in one of our organs it does its own thing, we call it cancer, yeah, because there's no connection, no communication anymore. So it's super important that we as healers really bow down to the bigger wisdom and say, hey, Grandmother Earth, help me to be in alignment with a bigger healing, to bring my work in alignment with a bigger healing, with a bigger wisdom.
Mm.
To this topic of immigration, I would like maybe just a couple of minutes. I've seen amazing remedy for landing in a new land is placenta.
Ah, amazing.
It's
Mm.
really, can you imagine? It's the placenta is the first welcome of the soul in the physical. It's the first landing in the physical.
Mm.
Yeah. And what I've seen in when that was in the difficult because mom was sick or busy or stressed or whatever. Yeah. So there was not really a great welcome. And that means my roots in the physical are a little bit stunted. And when then people with that background immigrate somewhere, this old not landing well is being triggered. And placenta is a great remedy.
Have you got a particular potency that you like? I know it's so annoying when homeopaths ask about potency because it always depends on the case. But I've
No,
recently
I always
started.
do the same,
Yeah.
actually. Very primitive. I give 40C, yeah, a handmade 40C, and I give it some, depends on, usually twice a week. Yeah.
Mm.
I say every Monday and every Thursday, take 2 pellets 40C or 1 pellet, whatever you want. Yeah.
I actually wanted to tie in when you were talking about that, about the immigration side of things. I was just going to say that I really resonate with that because obviously being born in South Africa and then living in New
Yeah.
Zealand and my kids being born there and now being in Australia for 8 years, it's really
Wow.
confusing about like where do I belong? Like where's my roots?
Yeah.
Because I left
Yeah.
South Africa when I was 17. So I don't, that's not really my culture. But
Yeah.
then I lived 17 years in New Zealand, but I'm not like my passport says I'm Kiwi, but
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and it's very confusing for our kids as well because they have two South African
Yeah.
parents, but they, are growing up here in Australia. And so they don't really know what to call themselves. But I have never really thought about trituration as a means of then having roots in that soil. And apparently the remedy lac macrocarpus giganticus, which is made from the milk of a kangaroo, is apparently also really great to integrate people into, Australia. And
Into
I
Australia.
yeah, I haven't used it myself. I should, but Suriname is another one that I
It's
know is good for that
Suriname. Yeah.
too. Mm.
Ah, yeah.
For like,
I
help.
think that there's certain areas, every area has a typical animal, yeah, that represents a little bit the spirit of the land. Yeah. And I can imagine in Australia it can be a kangaroo at many areas. Well, here at the coast, it would be maybe the orca or it would be the eagle. And then on the prairies for most of North America, it would be the buffalo. These are animals that really connect us with them. Buffalo connects with the land, the bison. Yeah, it's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah, what a strong connection to the land. So
Mm.
I think these, how can I call them, these archetypal animals of an area, and they are one way of also connecting the land. Yeah, good way.
Mm. Mm.
And trees,
Trees, definitely.
trees get it rooted.
Mm.
Yeah,
I have one other question that I want to ask you as well, and it's to do, you were talking about culture and culture being,
mm,
really important. And of course, once again, synchronicity. I had a follow-up yesterday with a client who comes from a Muslim culture where
yeah,
it's her words, not mine, but she was saying that
yeah,
the immense shame that she feels of about being a woman. And that in her culture that you are not, I should actually pull up her file and just use her exact words so I don't get into trouble, but the immense shame about, not being worthy, not being able to speak up, not being able to have any sort of individuality at all. And she, she's trying to kind of step out of that. She has two daughters herself, so she's trying to
yeah,
step out of that. But that culture, it's so deeply rooted. So culture
yeah,
is, I think, it's can be a good thing when it's a culture that is uplifting and, empowering you. But if it's something that tells you you're almost not worth being alive, it's really hard to work through. Like, how do you even break through
It's
that? Like, what's
painful. Yeah, it's
very,
painful. It's just listening to you, it hurts. Yeah. But it's great that you bring that. How can we deal with that? What does not work is getting rid of it. What we reject is what we attract. Law of it's not working. All the things, when you just a month ago, I met with a group of people and we all worked through what did I reject from my parents, and just to see how we pass that on in trying to be not that way, rejecting something. We can overcome something when we integrate it, then it has a higher potential. Yeah. And maybe a side note, this higher potential, I would like to give an example so it's not just words later, and because it's important. So this shame of being a woman, how can we deal with that? In order to heal something, it's the last thing is getting rid of it. It's a not working because this is our history. Yeah. It sits in our body as memory of generations of women. Yeah. There's no way to get rid of it. Yeah. So, and we never get rid of something that we want to get rid of. Yeah. We can overcome, but that means we turn towards and feel all the pain that goes with it, the shame, the pain, the grief, the anger. Yeah. All of that needs to be processed and integrated. And then we can overcome, become bigger. Then this trauma becomes a part of our inner landscape, but it's not dominating the whole thing. And every trauma has also a higher potential that we don't know. And like from Triturations, we see that. From Shameeah, we see that. There's a higher potential to the problem. Yeah. The problem is life's gift are not wrapped up like a Christmas gift with a golden bow or something. They often come in very shitty disguise. Yeah. Or not disguised. Yeah. In a very non-attractive wrapping. Let me put it like that. So,
unceremonious.
and life is messy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we gotta love that part of life also. So it's a mess. And it's important that it is. So it's really turning towards the problem and not away from. Away from guarantees that we continue it.
I love that saying that
Oh,
which you resist persists.
what you resist persists, what you
Mm.
reject, it's what you attract.
Ah,
That is
there's a second part
that
to that.
is the law of attraction. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's a resonance law, just like remedy and patient. Yeah, it's a resonance. It's a law of resonance. And this is simply an energetic law. It's not up for discussion if we like it or not. That's not the problem here. Yeah. What we reject is we carry on. So all the things that I rejected in my dad, because I was so scared of his anger, yeah, and I'm never going to be like my dad. I'm never going to do that, and blah blah blah. And when I look at my kids and my grandkids, it's quite, oh, that didn't work so well. Yeah, it's not working that way. We got to turn towards and then deal with it. And dealing with it means letting out of the physical, because what we cannot digest, the body carries it. Yeah, the body is our donkey. Everything we cannot deal with, we put it on this donkey. And it's a lovely guy because this donkey carries it all for us. But one day it'll start limping. And then it's not time to push him more. Yeah, but to slow down and say, hey, wait a moment. Back then, I could not deal with this or with that. Meanwhile, I'm more grown up, I'm more mature, I have more resources. Yeah. What can I take over again from your load? That out of this body, out of the often physical complaints, to arise something in the emotional sphere, because there on the energetic realm, it's malleable and digestible. On the physical, it's structured. It's a little bit bang. It's very solid. Yeah.
Mm.
But to come out of that and then deal so with, I think it's a long step. And patriarchy, the results of patriarchy, like this whole mess, what we talked about, the separation between the earth and
Mm.
us, yeah, is also a result of the patriarchy. So it's also a little bit within this whole thousands of years of struggle between the masculine and feminine. And, when you these extreme forms that this has been taken and where we come from in Europe, yeah, that sits in every cell of every woman as a memory. And we got to deal with it. And it's not something that we will clear in one generation, simply not. But we can do our contribution. And there's something, how can you deal with a woman like that? Well, one thing I probably would step by step, because this is multi-layered. There will be so many things coming up. Yeah. When she feels shame, give something for shame. It can be thuya. Yeah. But there's also a possibility that you give a remedy like of the menstrual blood or something like that, just to support the dark side of the feminine, the taboo side of the feminine. That's also the power side of the feminine, where we are afraid of the feminine, and the suppressed side, because everything we suppress goes in the dark side. And it seems like the feminine is, in homeopathic terms, defined here. The front side is the lacumenum. We all love it. It's bright and the nurturing. Oh, it's so lovely. Yeah. And the back side, the dark side, the taboo side, the hidden side, the power side. That's the menstrual blood. Yeah. But the abuse goes there. And then, of course, it's the here we for so long we abuse women culturally, I mean, yeah, and then we're surprised that the mothering doesn't work so well anymore, yeah. And for how long did we abuse Earth now? And then we're surprised that she cannot take care of us anymore with full, and it's the same problem. It's the same problem, yeah, deep down. So I think what you're talking to is super important for the whole global crisis, polycrisis we're in.
It's such a tricky question. Like, where do you even start? And as homeopaths, we can often, I know I'll speak for myself, I often get overwhelmed in a case when there's just so much going on. And this woman is telling me about this generational stuff that she's trying to clear because she's got two young daughters. And I can see how she is she's working so hard to not be her mum and her grandmother. And in the process, like exactly, you can see the over conversation then having its own kind of
Yeah.
effects. And in my overwhelmed state yesterday, when I was like, what do I give this woman? I ended up giving her anacardium because she was saying that the voices of what's been indoctrinated into her is so strong. And she hears her own voice wanting to come through, but it doesn't have a chance. And so I'm like, do I give her I prefer lac maternum over lac humanum. I don't know. That's the one that I always use. Or do I give her maybe Boswellia for Jane Caccetti was talking about how that's really good for transgenerational trauma. Or what do I give her? And I thought, look, this is the thing that she is talking about right now that's affecting her. I'm just going to give it to her and I'm just going to see if it removes any layers. But is there any other than using like when because it's easy, like sometimes we can over mentalize things and we can say, okay, you need to turn to it and you need to face it. And that's all fine and dandy to say, but how do you actually do that? How do you actually go and
In
face
not
the
doing it
shame?
alone.
Okay.
When you can sit with her, you can feel her shame, yeah, and you can feel her upset and whatever there is, yeah, then her shame already has more space, because when you can feel her, your inner space connects with her inner space. You have at least twice the space, if not more. And in this bigger space, you ground yourself to the down in earth and call her Mother Earth for support. Yeah. So you give something that grounds. And if this is placenta, or if a great remedy is red ochre sometimes for that. Yeah. All indigenous people call it the blood of grandmother earth. Yeah. And all over indigenous peoples like AS Rock is red ochre. Yeah. It's in Australia, all over the world. It's been used. And it's been widely used also in Europe and Asia during matriarchal times. 70% of the graves they find red ochre,
Wow.
and archaeologists don't know why. But from the indigenous practices, it makes it, and also from triturating it, it makes it clear. Yeah, this is the blood of Grandmother Earth. This is her blessing, and it's her thank you, and it's her power. And to give something like that in a low potency or longer time, it really gives you a little ground, because it helps you to connect. We need that for our emotional overwhelm. Two things. One thing, we need the connection to the ground, like a lightning rod. Yeah. When we're grounded in our body and ground that body in earth, we have a lightning rod. Yeah. And we need on the horizontal each other to hold it. These big collective things, they are way bigger than one person alone. It's not working. Yeah. Why is it not working? One thing, because they are collective, and second thing, because they have been wrapped up in our developing nervous system in such an early time, some even before we were born, others then through the mother's milk in earliest. As a child, we download the energy of our family. So we make it ours, because otherwise we could not grow up there in a more or less coherent way. It would not work. Yeah. So at first we have to download it, and then it becomes ours. And when that is early, in the time when our nervous system was developing, it becomes part of our physical makeup. It does not sit in here. It sits in our body. And it's also these early influences, and if it's a trauma or if it's a cultural or family inheritance, they back then, it's simply not possible that we deal with emotional stuff alone. Let me give you an example. When there's a boy coming, 5-year-old or whatever, runs to dad, Daddy, I'm scared. And daddy looks around, like, there's no reason to be scared. Don't be scared. What does the boy learn? Oh, when I'm scared, I'm alone. I have to deal with it alone. In that age, there's no way he can deal with it alone. So he has to shut it down. In that moment, it becomes a trauma. It shuts down. And now on the emotional level, but the energy of the emotional level, we cannot stop. We can stop feeling it, but we cannot stop the energy. Either it goes in our mind and makes us crazy or hurried or rushed, or it goes in the body and in the long run does something there that we don't like. And we miss it as an orientation, but that's another topic. So when the same boy runs to grandma, Grandma, I'm scared, and grandma can say, oh, I can feel you're scared. Come, let me give you a hug. Here in that moment, the co-regulation takes place. The boy in that age needs to co-regulate with a grown-up nervous system. That can be. And in that way, he learns, oh, it's not terrible. My fear creates connection with grandma. It's not something that isolates me. Yeah. So when he's afraid later on, he can go into connection and connect. It's something that connects us, that creates connection and even intimacy. Whereas the others was, boy says, I'm scared. On an emotional request, there's a mental answer. There's no reason to be scared. Don't be scared. The greatest bullshit, yeah? You can say, it's like when I stand in front of this tree out there and say, don't be a tree. The tree is already there. It just means Daddy says in that moment, I can't deal with your fear. That would be an honest answer. Go to grandma. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's these early influences, if it's early trauma or if it's early cultural imprints, even when we deal with it later on, homeopathy is great. But what we also need is relationship. We still, because that part of us is still in the example of this boy, 5-year-old, yeah, and we carry this frozen fear of the 5-year-old with us, our life, yeah. And when that fear arises, chances are that we cannot deal with it alone because it comes from a time where that was not possible. So still today we need relationship in order to deal with it. I need to call Eugenie. Eugenie, do you have 10 minutes time to listen to me? Yeah, I'm really scared. And I can tell you, and you say, Roland, I really get you. I can feel that here. No fixing, no saving, no healing, just being with each other and say, I get you. And this is lived homeopathy. When somebody comes with a sting of a bee and a reaction, he gets a remedy of the bee. Not, you should be something different. I have to give you whatever. No, we give the same. We attune to it and we say, yes, I get you. Yeah. And in the moment, I'm scared, and you're still grounded, yeah, I can come to you, and then you are remedy. Not in trying to get me out of there, but in being with. When we give a little child belladonna in a fever, and it's dreams of witches or fever, delirious stuff, yeah, we tell them, I'm with you. And we can be together, witch or whatever, yeah.
Not
I'm
suppressing,
with you,
not
yeah,
suppressing those symptoms of the fever, but actually being with it. I'm just
yeah.
thinking of all those babies, all those newborn babies that, they're crying and the parents are leaving them to, what they call the cry it out method. So just leaving the baby to cry. And, that first trauma is there, like it's not even using words to come and ask you and say it's scared. It's crying because it can't talk and it's just being left in the cradle to cry.
It's really, really, the thing is, we touch that probably very often without recognizing it because we don't have a memory of that. I once did a meditation. Another homeopath is a meditation. She's a meditation teacher and asked me to do some stuff with her. And I said, yes, we can do that. So in a meditation, I could contact this little Roland after he was born. And back then in the hospital in Germany, mom gets child if she wants to breastfeed at all. Yeah. And then 15, 20 minutes breastfeed, and then you're gone for 4 hours, locked up. Bang. It was so terrible for me. It was really annihilating. It was like you fall into an abyss of non-existence. Yeah. I don't know exactly. One remedy that helped me was positronium. Yeah. I would also consider there's a remedy, the black hole or something like that. Yeah. So this is remedies because it's annihilating. We cannot exist without being in relationship. Hey, you're from South Africa, Eugenie. I heard from an acquaintance, a psychologist who comes from South Africa. He said when tribes people meet each other, they say Siyabona, and the
Yeah,
answer
Sivana.
is Ngiyabona. Something, I probably pronounce it terribly, or maybe it's totally wrong, but there's something. And he says, what it means is, I see you. And the answer is, I am because we are. I come into existence because you see me. A little child, what's not being seen does not exist. It's annihilated. It's absolutely terrible. And the anxiety is so big that the only way is to shut it down. You cannot live with that. So we have this wonderful trauma function to shut that overwhelming emotion down. But what it does, it goes in the body and it dominates in a certain way our life. This fear will be a background music of our life
Yeah.
without us being aware of it. It's,
Especially,
yes,
especially after 9 months of having every single need met instantaneously, perfect temperature, food, like perfect temperature, water, it's like
paradise.
lovely swaying. You come this,
Yeah,
get pushed down this canal, and then you get to connect with the source of your life, and then you get ripped away from that, or you get left. And I like,
yeah.
it's just, and yet we still choose to incarnate incredibly. Oh, Roland, I wish we could talk a bit longer. I
Yeah,
have got another guest that I'm interviewing today, but
all good.
I feel like
Yeah,
we could just talk for hours and hours. And I completely see what Sarah Valentini was on about and why the two of you would have no doubt have very incredible conversations. You will please have to come back onto the podcast sometime. And you definitely have to come to our conference in Bali because I think you will have fascinating conversations with very like-minded people in lovely warm weather. Are you
wonderful.
still taking on any new clients? And I see you are still doing your Shameeahs as well, so people can go to your website, vancouverislandhomeopathy.com. But yeah, vancouverislandhomeopathy.com.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All one big word. I'm 70, so I kind of slow down. Yeah.
Mhm.
And with taking clients and in a limited number, let me put it like that. Yes, I still do Shameeah's C4 Triturations. Some of them I do here now in February. We do one here on Vancouver Island, and some I do, yeah, in other where people invite me, like in Minneapolis with the students, for example, in the US. And yeah, what I also, if you're interested in stuff like that, for me, on the blog of my website, there is little videos. I used to write newsletters, but with my German background, to write perfectly in English is not that easy. Because so I had to give it to my wife to get rid of my Germanisms in my writing. And to get things across really, all the subtleties of what you want to say really have to be good in the language. I'm just not that good. So I more and more I did little videos, short videos to certain little topics, and they are really close to my heart. When I talk and people see me, they hear my voice, they see my body language. There's so much more information coming across than just my language correctness, my limited language correctness. So I think video is much more forgiving for that. For me, it's way easier. And here on my blog, you find my newsletters or news videos that I send out. And it's something really important for me. It's things that are important for me or even sacred for me. And so if you want to check out that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you,
And it's
Roland.
usually about nature and spirituality and stuff like that.
I saw the apple tree photo
Yeah.
there as well. It's beautiful.
Oh, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
my German is very limited, but I can say Dankeschön.
Bitteschön.
And Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and all the best for your journey. Please say hi to your husband and good fishing. Yeah, tight
Thank,
lines,
thank you
and see you
so
again.
much. All
Okay.
the best. Bye.